Hey, it's James from survivalpunk.com. Good morning. Today we're going to talk about what to do if you're stuck where you live. You want a homestead, but you're in an apartment, but you're in the city. You don't live on 40 acres in the country, but you want to live that life. And at the moment, house prices are still ridiculous. And it's getting to the point where, for a lot of you, you might be stuck where you're at. Either, what I mean is, you overpaid for your house, and the house prices are not going down, but also no one wants to pay you what you paid for that house. It's sort of weird, kind of a stalemate where people don't want to lower the price of their homes, which are overvalued, but also no one wants to pay those prices. So you can't sell your home and you can't buy a home for cheaper. Everybody's kind of just stuck. The times, they are changing though, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we get into that though, let's take a listen to our morning theme music. And we're back. I really need to do some like deep tissue foam rolling lacrosse ball work when I get home. I have like I know I'm just bitching in the morning, but you're my friends. That's what friends do. I have like it feels like what the feeling of a crick in your neck would be, but it is in my shoulder. And it has been really bothering me for a few days. Man, Catch Potato Mike's wife is kind of a low-key hypochondriac. Honestly, not low-key. Very much so a hypochondriac. And she went to the fucking doctor for a crick in your neck. Me and my wife were like, we were basically Kermit the Frog drinking our tea. We're like, who goes to not the hospital, the doctor, like the walk-in clinic. She went to the walk-in clinic for a fucking crick in your neck. We're like, who does that? It just sucks for like 2 or 3 days, and then it's fine. They actually just threw muscle relaxers at her, which is bizarre. I had never heard of anyone going to the doctor for that. But she probably thought she had something crazy going on. We won't go into that. But the concept of the doctors just be like, here's a muscle relaxer, is boggling the mind. Also, I don't ever have a lot of good experiences with the doctor. I am, though, about to actually search for a primary care doctor. I feel like I'm at the point in my life where I probably should have a primary care doctor. I probably should have had one for years. And a good primary care doctor, in terms of what I'm looking for, might actually be a game changer. Or they may just be like, I'm not going to take you on as a patient after the first meeting. Like, nope, I'm not dealing with you. So there's that. So what to do if you're stuck? We kind of talked about it. Let's go into more detail. If you're in an apartment and you're trying to move into a house to get a homestead, prospects are not great. Rent is fucking crazy, but mortgage payments are even more fucking crazy. There's definitely parts of me that wish, back in like 2012 or something, I was looking for a house. There was parts of my brain that wishes I had just got into a house and locked it in back at that prices, but also a lot of things happened between then and now So it's probably wise that I didn't. So that's just kind of one of those. Would have been nice if I'd got a house and locked in those like 2012 prices or whatever. But in reality, it wouldn't actually work. It's just like saying the first time I had looked and considered buying Bitcoin. Bitcoin was, I want to say, either $11 or $8 a Bitcoin. This was a while ago. I can't remember which one it was because in my mind, I remember looking at Bitcoin prices around the same time I was buying silver, also at either $8 or $11 an ounce. So it was one of the two, right? And I wanted to invest, not a lot, honestly, like $100. However, that would have been a few Bitcoins. Oh my God, that would have been so many Bitcoins. And if you look at some of the prices, it's been like, Bitcoin up around $120,000 of Bitcoin, and you're thinking, well, shit. If you had bought if I had bought 8 Bitcoins, I would have probably been like a millionaire. I would have probably been a millionaire. However, the reality is, the moment Bitcoin went from like $8 a Bitcoin to like $100 a Bitcoin, I would have sold it all. I'm just being honest. I mean, I think most people would too, right? Like, at that, your ROI is so great. There's no way your brain would have processed, oh, this shit's gonna be over $100,000, and if you just have diamond hands, my friend, you will be a millionaire. No one would have done it, and no one did do it. Like, there were Bitcoin millionaires. So that's why I don't say I could have been a millionaire. I could, however, have made quite a few bucks. Anyway, you're stuck. Houses are too expensive. Rent's too expensive. Land's too expensive. Everything's too fucking expensive. So the premise is how to just make the best of where you're at. There are things you can do. There are a couple options. I still think the best option, though, is to really focus on saving, controlling spending, and increasing cash flow, increasing your income. So if you spend less money, you make more money, and you save more money. And always kind of be looking, right? You may have a dream deal just come along, and you'll be able to hop on it. But in the meantime, here are some things you can do. If your space is a limitation, there are absolutely ways to maximize it. When I started prepping, I was in an apartment, and honestly, the blog, instead of Survival Punk, was almost like Apartment Prepper. Would have been a terrible, and I would have had to have rebranded. Thank goodness somebody had already bought apartmentprepper.com and has that as their brand. Wonder if they ever moved. But there's a whole lot you can do in an apartment to be a prepper. Let's run over some of those things. First, obviously, you're not going to have a lot in the means of gardening space or animals. There are things you can do, though. If you have a balcony, you can have some container plants out there. It would kind of be best to maximize what you're growing. There's things that are kind of worth it and things that aren't worth it. You're not gonna. I wouldn't bother trying to grow container plants of like 2 corn. This is a dumb waste of time. Growing things with a big ROI does make a lot of sense, though. So, if you eat a lot of a growable vegetable matter, whatever that is, and it's expensive, and you can grow it on a small scale, that'd be the things I'd look into. One time I saw a list of plant matter that had the highest ROI, and for some reason, cilantro was on there as the number one thing. Cilantro does make a lot of seeds, and you can grow a lot of cilantro. If you like cilantro, I do. My wife doesn't. Doesn't really make a lot of sense in my case for the amount of cilantro. Really, I think one of the best things you can do is get a planter box and get lettuce mixes and sprinkle them in there. Just not even, I just mean open the packets and just mass cover it. Sprinkle some dirt on top and water it. Your lettuces, because hopefully you're not just, don't grow iceberg, grow a lettuce mixture. There's a lot of better things out there. Grow a lettuce mixture, and as you need a salad for dinner or lunch, hopefully you freak you're not eating breakfast salads. You just go through with scissors and trim off what you need. And then you just kind of keep growing. And eventually, you'll have to start over. There is obviously a finite lifespan, but you can get a lot of salads from just doing that. And salads tend to be fairly expensive for what you're getting, which is mostly water. So that tends to be on the higher return of interest. And then you just got to think about what you're eating, right? If there's, in my apartment, I did not have a balcony, but outside my window was a grass between myself and the sidewalk because I was on the ground floor. I just threw in a raised bed garden one year and grew some shit. Maybe more than 1 year, actually. Maybe a couple years. And I grew zucchini because I ate a lot of zucchini at the time. And I ate tomatoes and some peppers. And it was like one plant of each, right? So like I got a lot of zucchini from my one zucchini plant. The tomato, I've never been able to grow tomatoes worth of shit. Me personally, I wouldn't bother. Maybe when we move and we get our homestead, which should be this year, we will try tomatoes again. I have never, in all the years that I've planted gardens, ever had a successful tomato harvest. I planted tomatoes many times, and I want to say the amount of tomatoes I've ever gotten, you can count on one hand. It is that pathetic. So, fuck tomatoes. Just buy them. Cucumbers are the one cucumber plant you can get a lot of cucumbers from. I still, though, think that herbs and salad are your best bets. And as you get more space, you can introduce things like cucumbers, zucchinis. You can do tomatoes. You can do peppers. Peppers are better. I've had some better. I've planted like a jalapeno tree bush plant, jalapeno plant, and it did well. Let's briefly talk about animals. In an apartment, you really can't have like a cow or a flock of chickens or a goat. There are some things you can do, right? There's no way you're going to be able to do chickens. Like if someone out there is doing chickens in an apartment, I'm very impressed with them. None of it seems like it would work out very well. Just none of it, right? If you had like 2 chickens on your balcony and you're using them as egg layers, they can't walk around, like they're stuck. None of it's any good. Just for the most part, the quality of life of your apartment dwelling animals is not going to be great. They're going to live in cages their whole life. You could do things to make sure that they're not miserable. They're not like You obviously don't want them wallowing around in poop because they're in your apartment. One of those tiny things. Quail. Quail is an inside bird. Quail is a bird that you could stock a lot of and possibly do in a very tiny area. So quail is one. You can get eggs and you can get meat from them. I have absolutely informed. I've never done this and I've never eaten this. But this is a thing that I've seen other survivalists talk about and do. And that is grow meat hamsters. I'm not interested in growing meat hamsters. My daughter would probably have a panic attack. Just saying. So that's something that you can consider, though, is there are absolutely people out there that are growing meat hamsters, and it seems to be pretty popular among them. So meat hamsters. Rabbits. You can do a couple rabbits inside. You're not going to do a lot. You can do a couple. I've kind of over the years tried to acclimatize my daughter to the idea that we may at some point in the future grow rabbits and be eating some of them. For the most part, when presented as rabbit nuggets, she might be on board. There's no way she wouldn't get somewhat attached, and I wouldn't have it if you let them get attached to like the mama rabbit. The mama rabbit is going to have a fairly long, fairly happy lifespan. The baby rabbits, though, don't let your children or your wife get attached to the baby rabbits. Those are your meat. So do whatever you can to kind of break that. Like, don't let them form bonds and get name and get really in love with the baby rabbits. But the mom is fine because the mom's gonna be around for a while. The dad, you come and go. Like, it doesn't really matter. So, and as far as like, I've covered multiple episodes on how to maximize your space in an apartment or tiny house for storage of preps. Go listen to one of those. But there is a lot of room that you can utilize in a small scale for your long-term food storage, your pantry, all of that. If you have a bit more room, right? Everything we covered in the apartments, you can still do, but you can expand upon it. If you're no longer constrained to a balcony, but you have a small suburban yard, there's so much you can fucking do in a small yard. They might be jackasses, the DeVayases from California. They might be fucking asshole douchebags that are suing people for using the term like urban homestead or something, which is a dick move. And I believe they eventually lost that lawsuit. And with it, though, they lost a lot of respect. They would have stayed in their fucking lane and not tried to screw over the community. I think they would have been better off. But anyway, the things that they've accomplished on a micro acreage, possibly a tenth of an acre, is astounding. They grow food in basically every square inch that they possibly can. They have chickens. They have tons of vegetables, easily enough to provide for themselves, but also they're selling it to local restaurants and making a good living. If you only take like a fraction of what they're doing and implement it, you will be solid. So look them up and start utilizing your space. Right? And you can determine the percentage that you are interested in doing. If you are stuck in a HOA and you're limited by that, I'm sorry that you're stuck there. You probably shouldn't have done that in the first place. But you are stuck there. So find out the rules of what you can do and push it right up to that. And if they want to be dicks, please let them know that you can be a bigger dick. I remember a news article of an HOA basically like pissing this guy off, right? He wanted to do something small and mundane. I don't know. Chickens. He wanted to have chickens. He wanted to have a front yard garden. One of those things, right? He wanted something that's a thing that we would agree with and we like. And the HOA was like, nope. And maybe they fined him, and maybe they just told him no, and maybe they yelled at him. And he's like, fine. You want to play that way? We'll play that way. He found a religion that worships penises. A cock religion. He found this religion, and in his front yard, he erected a giant fucking cock. And they're like, whoa, 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 you can't do this. You couldn't do chickens in your yard. You sure as hell can't put up a giant penis. Well, it's a religious, and he converted to that religion, and it's protected status. The court told the HOA they can't tell him he can't worship his religion. And to do that, he had to put up the giant penis. Moral of the story is, the HOA said, yes, you can absolutely have chickens. We're sorry for fucking with you. And he took down his cock. Just always keep that in your back pocket. You never know when you'll need a giant penis. Anyway, we are at work. The more room you have, you just take the things that we talked about and expand on them, right? You have a house, but it's in suburbia. You can probably get by with some chickens. If you can't, move on to not pheasants, quail. You can grow a lot of quail in a tiny area. You can grow chicken. You can grow rabbits. You can do the hamsters. I've seen people growing shrimp in aquariums. Hey, it's 4:04, which also means I'm supposed to be in work right now. Those are my thoughts. Just because you're kind of stuck where you're at doesn't mean you can't do things and you can't maximize the things that you have. With that, this has been James from StrawPunk.com. DIY to survive, views, guys.
In a world gone mad, survival the key. DIY kings with a plan to be free. Prepping for the fall when the system breaks. Learning from the past, fixing our mistakes. Resilience built on sweat and grit. Fight for life, gotta never quit. From the city streets to the wild unknown. With our hands we carve a stone. Hey ho, let's go. Hey ho, let's go. Against the tide bold we flow. Hey ho, let's go. Hey ho, let's go. In this chaos we grow. Every day we patch and mend. Self-sufficient till the end. Tools in hands, souls on fire. Raising up from the mire. From the podcast waves, the wisdom flows. At 25 seconds you already know. Survive the storm with skills we earn. In this punk life the tables we turn. Hey ho, let's go. Hey ho, let's go. Against the tide bold we flow. Hey ho, let's go. Hey ho, let's go. In this chaos we grow. Hey ho, let's go. Hey ho, let's go. Against the tide bold we flow. Hey ho, let's go. Hey ho, let's go. In this chaos we grow. Every day we patch and mend. Self-sufficient till the end. Tools in hands, souls on fire. Raising up from the mire. From the podcast waves, the wisdom flows. At 25 seconds you already know. Survive the storm with skills we earn. In this punk life the tables we turn. Hey ho, let's go. Hey ho, let's go. Against the tide bold we flow. Hey ho, let's go. Hey ho, let's go. In this chaos we grow. Hey ho, let's go. Hey ho, let's go. Against the tide bold we flow. Hey ho, let's go. Hey ho, let's go. In this chaos we grow. In a world gone mad, survival the key. DIY kings with a plan to be free. Prepping for the fall when the system breaks. Learning from the past, fixing our mistakes. Souls on fire, raising up from the mire. From the podcast waves, the wisdom flows. At 25 seconds, you already know. Survive the storm with skill